This video is brought to you by these YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your support, I really do appreciate it. Please make sure you're always taken care of first. Hello everyone and welcome to the top 10 tech autoers on Bleach Brave Souls. Now when it comes to autoing, some characters are definitely better than others, but what's most important is how you build a character. So just because you don't see a character on this list doesn't mean you can't auto with them, because you can auto with almost every character. Now for this list I've taken into consideration a character's overall auto speed, utility, and reliability. Also please keep in mind that this list is for autoing only, not for overall character. With that said, let's begin.
ギフトベラ石からは絶対脱出不可能だ。ギフトリング。
Now I'm starting off the list with Askin, the only character on this list that's gonna have a terrible killer. For autoing it is important to have a good killer since in a lot of places killers are multiplied. So unless you somehow have a lot of little Ichibes running around, his killer will for the most part be useless. That said, the rest of this character is pretty impressive. Out of all the tech characters he has the highest attack without applying any soul traits, cause then it's Lost Agent Kukaku and he sucks. In addition to that really high attack, he's also got Bruiser at 30%, Poise, and Flurry, so his normal attacks deal a ton of damage. Plus his normal attack, his strong attack 1 and his strong attack 3 all have a chance to inflict poison, though it's not debilitating. In addition to dealing poison, he's also completely immune to it, which comes in handy in things like inheritance zones or droplet zones that have poison floors in the ground. He's also completely immune from being paralyzed, which definitely helps when autoing, and he starts off every mission with 10 barriers. They go away after he gets hit 10 times or after 20 seconds. And finally there's his strong attack 2. That is basically a reverse boost move, as it debuffs the enemy's attack, defense, and focus by 33%, and it's useful for him surviving longer and dealing more damage. Overall, his only actual major flaw is that killer. Still, even with that, he's a pretty good character to auto with.
耐え難い天の座の空白も終わる。これからは私が天に立つ。
Next up, we have the Fierce Battle version of Aizen, which you ordinarily wouldn't think about for autoing, and who can blame you? He's a ranged character, so he's a little bit slower than if you were to auto with a melee character, and he's a high SP character, which historically aren't the best for autoing, though there are some exceptions. Now slow as he may be, he's actually pretty reliable. As I mentioned, he's ranged, but his normal attacks are piercing, and he's got a plus 40 bruiser, so he's not without damage. In addition to that, he's also got guard break, which comes in extremely handy when autoing, and his strong attack 2 is a barrier move, which for autoing is one of the best things you can have. Plus, since he has a strong attack recharge link, his strong attacks will come back faster, and he has a plus 40 berserker on top of frenzy, so they're going to be dealing a considerable amount of damage. Finally, this Aizen is also completely immune to being frozen and poison, which really comes in handy when autoing since you don't have to worry about the poison floors, and since you definitely don't want to be frozen. The only real bummer about autoing with him is that when you auto you don't really use your special, which in his case transform him and increases damage. Though I guess you can start off with the special and let the character go on from there. Next on the list we have Hiyori, who has a really high attack as well as Flurry and a 20% normal attack damage link. She was also one of the first characters to have Flurry and a decent killer, in her case a hollow killer. This means she's going to be able to deal a ton of damage when killers are multiplied, since any normal attack increase you attach to her essentially gets doubled thanks to the Flurry. Hiyori also has Poise, meaning she does not stagger when hit, so if she's being hit she can actually fight back unless she gets frozen or paralyzed. She's also got a strong attack 2 that's a vortex move, which does come in handy when autoing since it helps trap enemies while you hit them. Finally, like the previous characters on this list, she is also completely immune to being poisoned. Now I will say Aizen I think is a bit more reliable than her. That said, she can definitely get the job done a lot faster, while still being pretty reliable herself. Next up, we have the tech past version of Shinji, who has a really high attack as well as a plus 80 bruiser. Now while having Flurry is definitely a lot better, plus 80 bruiser is pretty high, and it lets him deal a lot of damage with his normal attack. He's also got a low stamina damage link of 30%, which, while you do hope it never comes to it, does let him deal more damage if his health is low, not just with his normal attacks but also his strong attacks, which go from being plus 40 thanks to his berserker to plus 70. And they're pretty useful strong attacks too. Like Hiyori, his strong attack 2 is also a static vortex move, but his strong attack 3 is definitely more useful than hers. since it's a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot and puts him in a perfect position for him to continue his attacks. He's also got much better range on his normal attack, partially thanks to his plus 20 long reach. Now finally, while he doesn't have poise, he does have two abilities that make him very useful for autoing, and that's the fact that he's completely immune to both being frozen and paralyzed. The two things that can basically seal your fate when you're autoing, since they leave you completely vulnerable to enemy attacks. Obviously, Hiyori is gonna deal more damage with her normal attack, but as far as speed and reliability go, I'd probably go with Shinji over her. Next up is the second high SP character on this list, the Can't Fear Your Own World version of Holybell. Now while Aizen may have been a bit on the slow side, you don't really have to worry about that for Holybell, since she's a melee character. She's got a really high SP as well as Berserker at 40% and Frenzy, so her strong attacks are going to deal a lot of damage. Plus she's got Havoc at 20, so she's going to be able to reach enemies that are further away. Now in addition to this, she's also got Bruiser at 40%, letting her normal attacks deal more damage than her regular high SP characters would. On top of that, her strong attack 2 is a boost move with Enhancer that effectively increases her attack to over 850 and lets her deal more damage with both her normal attacks and her strong attacks, while also increasing her defense by 33%, letting her stay alive longer. This strong attack 2 is also a barrier move, and thanks to her strong attack recharge link, she's able to use that and the other strong attacks more frequently. You just have to hope the AI does. All of this make her a really reliable character that can deal damage with her normal attack and high range damage with her strong attacks. All that while being immune to being frozen. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this Holybell's really good at everything. Next up is the most recent tech character, the Orient Society version of Kukaku, who has a really high attack as well as Bruiser at 20, Flurry, and Poise. She's also got an Arrancar killer, so she benefits highly from killer multiplications. And she's got no affiliation, which actually means a lot more in top 10 auto lists than in other lists, since there's not really events that have no affiliation killers, so you can pretty much use her anywhere Arrancars are enemies, without ever having to worry that the enemy might have a killer advantage against you. That might change in the future, but at the time of this recording, no events have had enemies with no affiliation killers, though I'm sure if I'm wrong, the comments will let me know, since it's possible there has been and I just missed it. Now Kukaku can also inflict debilitating burn on all of her attacks, and because her normal attack hits twice, that's double the opportunity to inflict it. Kukaku's also got long reach, so her attacks are gonna reach further, and she's got a damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%, letting her survive a lot longer. Unfortunately, like Aizen, she's also got an ability that's kind of wasted when autoing, since she's got an additional sprinter she can't exactly use. Still, even without using it, her killer and high attack make her a really fast and reliable autoer.
後のことなんざ考えて出し惜しみしたらぶち殺すぞ
Next up, we have the Can't Fear Your Own World version of Kenpachi, a character with a really high attack, Bruiser at 40, and Flurry. This guy is dealing a lot of damage with his normal attack, especially against Arrancar since he's got an Arrancar killer. On top of that, this Kenny also has poise, meaning he does not stagger, and because he's completely immune to being paralyzed, the only real way to stop him is to freeze him. That or kill him of course, but we're not counting that. Now his SP may not be high, but he does have a 50% Berserker, meaning his strong attacks aren't going to waste, especially his strong attack 2 since it's a static vortex move that helps trap enemies while he beats them. Kenpachi's also got a 60% damage reduction link that can be stacked up to 76%, letting him withstand more damage than most characters. Finally, and while this doesn't normally carry that much weight in a regular top 10 list, I will give him a few extra points here for being able to increase the amount of speed link slot potions you get in Inheritance Zone, since Inheritance Zone is a big reason why people will watch this. Overall, I do find this Kenny to be a bit more boring than the other characters on this list. Nevertheless, he's still a really good autoer, and if you're autoing, it doesn't really matter if a character is boring.
I am #1 Tenpaku creator! ジャンボクの刀は一振り一冊さ
Next up is the number 1 Zanpakuto creator. Now Uetsu has a really high attack as well as bruiser at 40 and flurry, so his normal attack is more than covered. He's also got a Soul Reaper killer, so he gets the advantage of killer multiplications. In addition to that ridiculous attack damage he can already deal, his strong attack 2 is a boost move with enhancer. This effectively makes his attack over 1000 and gives him the hardest hitting normal attack for any tech character. Not only that, but that boost move is also a vortex move that surrounds him, that can not only deal a decent amount of damage thanks to his plus 50 berserker, but also essentially doubles as a shield, since it staggers the enemies around him while Uetsu slashes them to pieces. His other strong attacks are also pretty useful, since they have decent range and again he has a plus 50 berserker. Uetsu also has guard break, so he has no need to actually use these strong attacks to break guards, and it means that his normal attacks will always deal the full amount of damage, letting him clear quests faster. Now unlike other high attack flurry characters, he doesn't have a normal attack damage link or a damage reduction link. Instead, they give him a strong attack recharge link, which actually does come in handy and pairs well with his strong attack too, since it lets him use it more frequently. Finally, to add icing on the cake, this character is also completely immune to being paralyzed.
この炎からは逃げられねえ。永遠に眠れ。行こうぜ。
Now, out of everyone on the list, Uetsu was probably the fastest, or rather has the potential to be the fastest depending on how you build them. But these final 2 characters were so reliable I couldn't not put them at 2 and 1. Let's start with number 2, the Desert Society version of Ichigo. He has a really high attack as well as flurry and a plus 20 bruiser. In addition to that, all of his attacks with the exception of his strong attack 2 have a chance to inflict debilitating burn. And he's actually extremely likely to do it with his normal attack. Ichigo's a ranged character, so his normal attack is piercing, and since he has flurry, it basically doubles the amount of time it hits, letting each attack hit 4 times. This means that with one normal attack string, a single enemy can be hit 16 times. That's 16 times the opportunity to inflict debilitating burn per enemy per normal attack string. It also very rapidly increases the combo and lets him deal more damage that way. Now as I mentioned, this Ichigo is ranged, meaning he's doing all of this from a distance. While it does mean the clear time might be slower, it's definitely more reliable, especially when you take into consideration that he has a damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%. So even if enemies hit him, they're not going to deal that much damage. And if they do, there's always his strong attack 2, which just so happens to be a heal move. Imagine only taking less than a fourth of the damage you're supposed to take and then healing that damage. All of that while dealing high damage yourself and inflicting burn. That's exactly what we have here.
冷圧をぶち込んで叩き起こしたいやつがいるんだ。まだ全然使いこなせちゃいねえけどな。仕方ねえ。よく見ろよ。俺の戦い方を。甘いの。僕のシュリフト。アンチサーシス。手出しは不要だ。
Now finally, at number 1, and this might come as a surprise to a lot of people watching, we have the 1000-year Blood War version of Uryu, who I'm pretty sure wasn't even meant to be an auto-ing character, it just kind of happened. Now this Uryu has a ridiculously high SP, as well as Frenzy and a Berserker at 40, so his strong attacks deal a ton of damage. And thanks to his strong attack recharge link, they happen more frequently. Plus he has Havoc at 20, so they're able to reach enemies that are further away. Now in addition to that, he's also got Bruiser at 40 and a rapid firing normal attack. He's also got guard break, so he'll never have to worry about his normal attack not dealing its full damage, and it also means he'll be able to clear quests faster. Now what really sets this character apart and what puts him at number 1 on this list is his ailment reversal ability, that not only make him immune from any ailment inflicted on him by an enemy, but also inflicts that ailment back to the enemy and heals Uryu for 25% of his total health, making him really difficult to kill, even more so with the right accessories since that amount can be doubled. This ability effectively makes a significant percentage of your enemy's attacks heal you and hurt them instead of actually hurting you. It also means you'll never have to worry about being confused, frozen, paralyzed, or weakened during regular events, since only enemies can inflict those, and all they will do is just heal Uryu. though you will still have to worry about floor hazards. In the end, this character is definitely not the fastest one on this list, but build him correctly and he's the most reliable and difficult to kill. In fact, I once cleared Inheritance Zone several times with this character, before realizing I didn't have any accessories or links equipped to him, which is pretty insane when you think about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.